The town raised money to find the obese widow a husband. The rancher threw it back and said, "She's worth more. We're organizing a fundraiser to find you a husband, Martha dear." Martha's hands froze over the bread she'd been wrapping. Mrs. Gable stood at her small stand, two other church ladies flanking her like sentries. "We need to talk, dear." Mrs. Gable's smile didn't reach her eyes. "About your situation." Martha's stomach dropped. She knew that tone, the false sweetness that preceded cruelty. "The ladies and I have been discussing you," Mrs. Gable continued. "Your husband's been gone 8 months now. You're alone. Struggling." Her eyes swept over Martha's worn dress. "We've decided to help." The words hit Martha like a blow. I don't need a husband," Martha whispered. "I just need the money you owe me. 6 months of baking for the church. $200. If you'd just pay me." Mrs. Gable's smile turned cold. "Oh, you think we owe you?" She laughed. "We've been doing you a favor, dear. Buying from a woman of your considerable size. Most people wouldn't bother." Martha's face burned. "The council won't allow an unmarried woman of your proportions to live alone," Mrs. Gable continued. "It attracts improper attention from men, leads them into temptation and sin." She leaned closer. "You need a husband, Martha. For your own good. I'm managing fine on my own. Just pay me what I'm owed and I'll go to my aunt." "Your aunt in Denver?" Mrs. Gable's eyebrow raised. "The one who refused you last month?" "Yes, dear. We know about that letter." Her smile sharpened. "You have nowhere to go. No man would take on a woman your size and your debts. Which is why we're raising money to incentivize someone." She patted Martha's hand. "It's charity. You should be grateful." She turned and walked away, the other ladies following, their whispers floating back like poison. Martha stood frozen, the world tilting beneath her feet. A fundraiser. To find her a husband. Like she was livestock no one wanted. She closed her eyes and for a moment she was 10 again, in her grandmother's kitchen. Warm bread rising. Gentle hands guiding hers. "You have magic in these hands, little one. Someday you'll have a real bakery." Martha opened her eyes. The dream felt impossibly far away. That Sunday, the announcement came after church service. Mrs. Gable stood before the congregation, face glowing with false charity. "As you know, our dear Martha has been struggling since her husband passed. No family to help her. So next Sunday, we're holding a special gathering to raise funds for her future. We'll help her find a suitable husband." The church erupted in whispers. Martha sat in the back, head down, face burning. Poor thing. They're actually raising money to marry her off? Who would take her, even with payment? She kept her eyes on her hands until everyone filed out. The week that followed was torture. Wednesday, 3 boys appeared at her stand, grinning. "Heard about the fundraiser, Martha," one said. "How much you think you're worth?" $5. They grabbed bread from her basket. "Hey, put it on account," another laughed. "Like Mrs. Gable does." They ran off, laughter trailing behind them. Martha's throat burned, but she didn't cry. Late afternoon, small footsteps approached. 3 children stood there, thin and dirty. "Miss Martha," the smallest whispered, "do you have any bread left?" "We don't have money," the oldest said quickly. "But we're so hungry." Martha knelt down and opened her basket. "Take it all." "But..." "Take it, sweetheart." Their faces lit up like sunrise. They thanked her and ran off, clutching the bread like treasure. Martha watched them go, tears finally falling. She had nothing left to sell, but those children would sleep with full bellies. Across town, Sam Brennan walked out of the land office, paperwork under his arm. "Sam," the clerk called. "You coming to the gathering Sunday? Big event." "What gathering?" "Church ladies are raising money to find Martha Henley a husband. Should be quite the spectacle." Sam frowned. "Martha? You know, the big woman who runs the bread stand. They're collecting funds to convince someone to marry her." Something cold settled in Sam's chest. "That's what they're doing?" The clerk shrugged. "Charity, they're calling it." Sam walked away, jaw tight. The woman was kind and hardworking, and they were auctioning her off? Sunday arrived too quickly. Martha stood at the edge of the town square. A platform had been erected. People gathered, buzzing with excitement. Mrs. Gable stood at the front, a basket overflowing with coins. "Come, Martha dear," she called. "Don't be shy." Every step toward that platform felt like walking to the gallows. "Look at her. Can't believe she's actually going through with this. Desperate, I suppose." Martha climbed the steps, legs shaking. Mrs. Gable raised her voice. "Friends, we've collected $200. A generous sum to help our dear Martha find security and respectability. Now, who among you men will step forward?" Silence. Then snickers. Finally a man stumbled forward. Old. Drunk. Leering. "I'll take her. And the money." Martha's vision blurred. This was her future. "Stop." The words spoken firmly, cutting through the noise. The crowd turned. Sam Brennan stood at the edge, face hard. Mrs. Gable smiled. "Mr. Brennan. How wonderful. If you're so concerned, perhaps you'd like to contribute to the fund." "She doesn't need your fund. She needs the money you already owe her." "And how would you know what she needs?" A young man called out, grinning. "If you care so much, take her yourself, Sam." Laughter erupted. "Big, strong rancher like you could handle her, couldn't you?" Martha wanted to disappear. Mrs. Gable's smile sharpened. "You've made quite a scene defending her. Didn't you tell the matchmaker you wanted a strong, capable, respectable wife?" Knowing snickers. "Doesn't look like Miss Martha fits your requirements." Vicious laughter. "That's enough," Sam said. "Then what do you propose?" "We're solving a problem. If you have a better solution, we're listening." Sam looked at Martha for the first time, trembling, tears streaming. "I won't force Miss Martha." "Force." Mrs. Gable turned to Martha. "Dear, what do you say? Mr. Brennan seems awfully concerned about you." Martha's face burned. Mr. Brennan is just." "Just what?" Mrs. Gable's voice sharpened. "It sounds like you two already have some sort of connection." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The implication hung in the air. Scandalous. Sam saw it clearly. "Walk away and they destroy her." "Mr. Brennan," Mrs. Gable said softly, "if your intentions are honorable, now's the time to declare them." The trap closed. Sam looked at Martha. "Fine. I'll marry her." Silence. Then explosive laughter. "He actually said yes." The sheriff stepped forward. "Witnessed, sealed." "Wait a," Martha whispered. "Too late." The preacher performed a brief ceremony. The crowd jeered through every word. Sam offered his arm. They walked through the laughter and whispers. By the time they reached his ranch, the sun was setting. Martha stood in front of this stranger's house and had never felt more alone. The ranch was beautiful. Martha stood in the doorway, taking it in. Well-kept fences. Organized barn. A house that looked cared for, lived in. This wasn't the home of a desperate man. This was the home of someone who had everything together, which made what just happened even more impossible to understand. "This room is yours." Sam opened a door off the main hallway. The room was simple, a bed, a wash basin, a small table by the window. "Spare." He set her bag down. "Locks on the inside." Then he walked out and closed the door behind him. Martha stood alone in the silence. Her hands were still shaking. Her face still burned from the laughter that had followed them all the way here. She could still hear it echoing in her head. He actually married her. Sam Brennan and that woman. She sank onto the bed, the reality crashing over her in waves. She was married. To a stranger. A man who'd been forced into it by a cruel crowd. He had to regret it. That night, she didn't sleep. She lay awake, waiting for him to knock. To tell her this was a mistake. He never came. Morning light crept through the curtains. Martha rose before dawn, terrified of being a burden. If she worked hard enough, maybe he wouldn't resent her. She found the kitchen and started cleaning. Scrubbed floors that were already clean. Washed dishes from his solitary dinner. hauled water from the well even though her arms ached. By mid-morning, her hands were raw. She was in the yard, struggling with a heavy bucket, when his voice startled her. "You don't have to do that." Martha nearly dropped the water. Sam stood by the barn, watching her. "I want to help. You're my wife, not a servant." The word wife hung between them, strange and foreign. He took the bucket from her hands before she could protest and carried it inside himself. Martha stood there, ashamed and lost. She didn't know what he wanted from her. The next day, she scrubbed the porch, then mended clothes that didn't need mending. Anything to feel useful. Sam found her in the afternoon, hands bleeding from lye soap. "Martha." His voice was quiet. "Stop. I need to do something," she said, voice breaking slightly. "Please. I don't want to be a burden. Tell me what I can do to help." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Can you help with the cattle?" Relief flooded through her. "Just anything." He led her to the corral where several head of cattle grazed. He pulled a rope from the fence post. "Need to separate that heifer for the vet," he said, nodding toward a young cow. "You know how to throw a lasso?" Martha shook her head. "I'll show you." He demonstrated, smooth, practiced. The loop sailed through the air and settled perfectly around a fence post. "Your turn." Martha took the rope. It felt foreign in her hands. She tried to mimic his movements, swinging the loop overhead. The lasso flew backward and wrapped around her own legs. She yelped, stumbled, and went down hard in the dust. For a moment, there was silence. Then Sam was there, kneeling beside her, carefully untangling the rope. His hands were gentle, working the knots loose. Martha's face burned with humiliation. "I'm sorry I..." "Better than most first tries," he said. She looked up, startled. The corner of his mouth lifted. Just barely. But it was there. A smile. Fleeting, but real. Something in Martha's chest loosened. The next morning, she woke to a knock on her door. Martha jolted awake, disoriented. The sun was barely up. She stumbled to the door, nightgown twisted, hair falling loose. Sam stood there holding a piece of paper. "Morning chores," he said. "Thought you could help with milking." His eyes flickered over her disheveled state, sleep-creased face, bare feet, the way she clutched the doorframe. The corner of his mouth twitched again. "No rush," he said gently. He walked away before she could respond. An hour later, Martha found herself sitting on a stool beside a large brown cow, bucket positioned underneath. "Just pull steady," Sam said from the doorway. "She's temperamental, but she'll settle." Martha reached for the udder cautiously. The cow shifted. Martha pulled. The cow kicked. The bucket went flying. Milk exploded everywhere, across Martha's dress, her face, the ground. Martha sat there, dripping mortified. Sam walked over, picked up the bucket, set it upright. His face was completely serious. "Cow doesn't like anyone," he said, tone dry as dust. "You're not special." Martha blinked. Then, despite everything, a laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside her. Sam's expression softened. "Come on. Let's get you cleaned up." That afternoon, she tried again. This time, she managed to get half a bucket before the cow protested. "Progress," Sam said. Days blurred together after that. She noticed things about him. The way he checked the fences every morning at the same time. How he spoke to the horses, low, steady. The precision in everything he did. She also noticed he bought food from town for the ranch hands. Bland stew. Stale bread. The men ate without complaint, but she could see they didn't enjoy it. One evening, she found her courage. "Mr. Brennan?" He looked up from the ledger he'd been reviewing. "To cook for the ranch hands. If you'd allow it." He studied her. "You want to?" "I can. I'm good at it." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Please, let me do this." Something in his expression changed. "All right." The next day, she started cooking. The ranch hands gathered for the noon meal, expecting the usual. Instead, they found fresh bread, roasted chicken, vegetables seasoned with herbs. Silence fell as they ate. Then one man looked up. "Ma'am, this is incredible. Best meal we've had in months," another agreed. More praise followed. Sam sat at the head of the table, eating slowly. He didn't say anything, but she caught him watching her. Saw the way his expression changed when the men praised her work. For the first time since arriving, she felt like she could do something right. But when evening came and they retreated to separate rooms, the distance between them still felt vast. Martha lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He'd married her out of pity. She was certain. He was kind. But kindness wasn't the same as wanting her here. Across the hall, Sam sat on the edge of his bed. He could still see her tangled in that lasso, laughing despite her embarrassment. Could still see her covered in milk, wet and mortified, trying so hard to be useful. She didn't see it yet, but he was beginning to. Outside, the wind moved through the fields. Inside, two lonely people lay awake in separate rooms. But the walls between them were cracking. The days settled into a rhythm. Martha cooked. The ranch hands praised her. Sam watched from the head of the table with that unreadable expression. But the distance between them remained. One evening, as she kneaded dough, Sam appeared in the doorway. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" Martha's hand stilled. "My mother. And I practiced. For years." "At your stand?" Sam said. "I remember. I bought from you every week." "Yes," she said softly. "You were always kind." He nodded. "You always seemed like you were thinking about something far away when you worked." Martha's throat tightened. "I was dreaming of..." She trailed off, afraid to say it. Dreamed of what? A real bakery. With windows. Where people came because they wanted to, not because they pitied me. She kept her eyes on the dough. "Foolish, I know." "Why foolish?" "Because people like me don't get real bakeries." Sam was quiet for a long moment. "Your bread is the best I've ever had, Martha. That's not a dream. That's skill." She looked up, startled by the certainty in his voice. Before she could respond, he cleared his throat. "We're invited to dinner. My cousin's celebrating their anniversary." He paused. "I'd like you to come." Martha's stomach dropped. "I don't think." "You're my wife. You should be there." The next evening, Sam appeared at her door holding something folded over his arm. A dress. Deep blue fabric, simple but beautiful. "This might fit you," he said. "You can adjust it if you need." Martha touched the fabric carefully. "Whose dress is this?" Sam's jaw tightened. "My mother's. It was her favorite." "I can't wear your mother's. My family died in the war." His voice was flat, controlled. "Parents. Sister. Lost them all when I was 20. He looked at the dress, then at her. "Your family now. It should be worn." Martha's throat closed. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "Not many do." He set the dress on her bed. "That's why I don't let people close. Can't go through that again." He turned to leave, then stopped. "But you're here now, and that dress shouldn't sit in a trunk forever." He left before she could respond. Martha spent the next day adjusting the dress. Let out seams. Added fabric where she could. Her hands shook as she worked. This wasn't just a dress. This was trust. This was him letting her into something sacred. When evening came, she put it on. It fit. Not perfectly, but well enough. There was a knock. She opened the door. Sam stood there, cleaned up, hat in hand. His eyes met hers and he went very still. For a long moment he just looked at her. "It fits well," he said finally, voice rough. "You look good." Heat flooded her cheeks. "Thank you. We should go." The ride to his cousin's house was quiet. Martha's hands twisted in her lap. "What if They'll be respectful," Sam said firmly. "Or we'll leave." The house was warm and loud with conversation. Sam's cousin greeted them at the door, kind enough. But Martha felt the stares. Heard the whispers. "That's his wife. Can you believe?" Dinner was tense. Martha sat beside Sam, trying to make herself small. Most people were polite, if distant. But one man, red-faced, loud, already drunk, kept staring. Finally he spoke. "Brennan, Didn't know you were desperate enough to? Watch yourself, Sam's voice cut like a blade. The man laughed. Just saying what everyone's thinking. You could have had your pick and you chose. Sam stood so fast his chair fell backward. One punch. Clinked. Hard. The man went down. The room fell silent. Sam grabbed Martha's hand. We're leaving. The ride home was silent. Martha's heart pounded. Inside the house, Sam paced like a caged animal. I'm sorry, he said finally. I shouldn't have brought you there. You defended me. My own family treated you like that. It's, his hands curled into fists. Unforgivable. Martha stood, walked to him. You're ashamed of them. Not me. He looked at her, something breaking in his expression. Never of you. The next day, Mrs. Gable arrived. Word spread about the fight, she said, standing in the doorway. People are concerned. This marriage was hasty, made under pressure. An annulment would be understandable. No. Sam's voice was iron. Mr. Brennan. She's my wife. This conversation is over. Mrs. Gable left, but her words lingered. Days later, Martha noticed the change. No buyers came for cattle. Suppliers refused orders. The ranch hands whispered. She overheard one. Town's punishing us, boss. Because of the marriage. Her heart sank. That night, she packed her small bag. Sam found her at dawn. Where are you going? I'm destroying you. Your business, your reputation. You think I care what they think? You should. You're losing everything because of me. Martha. I can't stay and watch you suffer. He caught her shoulders. Listen to me. They can take their business elsewhere. I don't care. Before she could argue, hoofbeats sounded. A man from the town council stood at the door, hat in hand, desperate. We need help. The baker's injured. Festivals in 3 days. We need someone who can bake for 200 people. He swallowed. We'll pay $300. And lift the boycott. Sam looked at Martha. Your choice. The man shifted. Please, Mrs. Brennan. We were wrong. About the boycott. We'll make it right. Martha looked at him steadily. I'll think about it. After he left, Sam turned to her. You don't have to help them. If I do this. Her voice was stronger now. They'll have to see me differently. Respect my work. She met his eyes. I need to prove, to myself, I'm more than what they said. You don't need to prove anything. But I do. For me. She paused. Will you help me? Sam's expression softened. Always. For the first time, she believed him. The work consumed everything. For 3 days, Martha barely slept. The kitchen became her world. Flour dusting every surface, the oven burning hot, her hands moving in constant rhythm. Sam worked beside her, hauling flour sacks, stoking the fire, kneading dough when her arms gave out. The ranch hands volunteered in shifts, drawn by the energy that had overtaken the house. Martha was transformed, confident, commanding. This was her element. Sam watched her direct the men. More salt in that batch, Fort. The oven's too hot. Bank the coals. And saw someone entirely different from the woman who'd stood trembling on that platform. She was magnificent. The second evening, Sam had to ride to town, meeting with the council about delivery logistics. He was buttoning his shirt when the top button popped off, rolling across the floor. He checked his pocket watch. 20 minutes to get there. Damn. I can help. Martha appeared with her sewing basket. If you'll allow it. He hesitated, then nodded. She approached, needle and thread ready. He stood very still as she reached up to his collar. Her fingers brushed his neck. Gentle. She was close enough that he could smell bread and vanilla on her. Could see the flour dusting her cheek. The way her brow furrowed in concentration. Her hands trembled slightly. Sam looked down at her. Really looked at her. The curve of her face. The way her lips pressed together as she worked. The loose strand of hair falling from her bun. Beautiful. The thought struck him with startling clarity. Martha finished the last stitch. Her fingers lingered on his collar just a moment too long. She looked up. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Electric. Undeniable. "There?" she whispered. Neither moved. Then Sam cleared his throat. "Thank you." He left quickly before he could do something foolish. Martha stood alone, hand pressed to her racing heart. The third day was brutal. Martha pushed herself past exhaustion. The final batches had to be perfect. Had to prove she was worth something. By late evening, the last tray came out of the oven. 60 loaves. 40 pies. Countless pastries. Done. Martha swayed on her feet. "Martha!" Sam's voice seemed far away. Her legs buckled. He caught her before she hit the ground, lifting her easily. "That's enough." "But the festival is finished. You did it." He carried her to her room, laid her gently on the bed. "Rest now." Martha's eyes filled with tears. Exhaustion. Relief. Something deeper. "Why did you marry me?" The question hung in the air. Sam sat on the edge of her bed, silent for a long moment. "I saw you," he said finally. "Not just on that platform. Before that. I saw you give bread to those hungry children when you had nothing yourself. Saw you thank customers even when they mocked you." He looked at her. "I saw kindness. Strength. Things you couldn't see in yourself." Martha's breath caught. "I didn't marry you out of pity, Martha. I married you because I saw who you really were. And I wanted to give you a chance to see it too." A sob broke from her throat. She cried, years of shame finally breaking open. "You're remarkable," he murmured against her hair. "I wish you could see yourself the way I do." He held her until she fell asleep, then quietly left her room. Hours later, he found her in the bakehouse, curled on the floor beside the cooling racks, completely spent. His chest tightened. He knelt beside her, carefully moving a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered on her cheek. She stirred but didn't wake. Sam retrieved a blanket and covered her gently. For a long moment, he just watched her sleep. This woman who'd been told her whole life she was worthless. Who'd worked herself to collapse to prove otherwise. She'd proven it. To everyone. Most importantly, to herself. Sam realized with perfect clarity that something had changed in him. When Martha woke, sunlight streamed through the windows. She was covered with a blanket that hadn't been there before. Sam sat nearby, drinking coffee, watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning." Her voice was hoarse. "Ready to show that town what you're made of?" Martha sat up, every muscle aching. Her hands were raw. Her body exhausted. But her spirit? Her spirit was stronger than it had ever been. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." They loaded the wagon together as the sun climbed higher. Sam's hand brushed hers as they worked. Not accidental. Deliberate. She looked at him. He looked back. No words needed. They drove toward town side by side, the wagon heavy with proof of her worth. Martha's heart pounded. Not from fear this time. From hope. The festival awaited. The town awaited. But more than that, her future awaited. And for the first time, she believed she deserved it. The town square overflowed with celebration. Families crowded between booths. Children chased each other, laughing. The smell of roasted corn and cider hung thick in the air. And on the main table, Martha's baking was displayed. Golden loaves of bread. Perfectly flaked pies. Delicate pastries almost too beautiful to eat. People swarmed the table. "This bread is incredible. Best pie I've ever tasted." Where did they find this baker? Martha stood at the edge of the crowd with Sam beside her, watching. No one had announced her name yet. They had no idea whose hands had created what they were devouring. Sam's hand found hers. Squeezed gently. Mrs. Gable climbed onto the small stage, clapping for attention. The crowd quieted. "Friends, I want to take a moment to thank someone very special." Her smile was strained. "Our festival would not have been possible without the generous help of Martha Brennan, who provided all the baking you're enjoying today." The square went silent. Heads turned, finally spotting Martha at the back. Whispers erupted like wildfire. "Martha made this? The same woman they..." She can bake like this? Martha's chest tightened. The old shame flooded back. Her hands started to shake. She took a step backward. Sam's hand tightened around hers. You don't have to, he said quietly. But something in Martha stirred. A voice, small but growing stronger. Yes, you do. She looked at Sam. He was watching her with absolute faith in his eyes. I'm right here, he said. Whatever you need. Martha took a breath. Then another. She stepped forward. Sam walked beside her, his presence solid and unwavering. Every eye in the square fixed on them. Martha climbed the stage steps, legs shaking. The crowd pressed closer. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The old words echoed in her head. No man would want you. You're not fit for anything. You need charity. Her vision blurred. Then Sam's voice, low and meant only for her, tell them. Martha looked out at the crowd. The same crowd that had laughed when she stood on a different platform. The same people who'd treated her like a burden, a joke, a problem to be solved with money. Her voice came out small at first. You said I wasn't fit for any man. Some people looked away. You said I needed charity because no one would want me on my own. Her voice grew steadier. You collected $200 and tried to sell me. Mrs. Gable's face flushed red. You stood there and laughed while a drunk man offered to take me for money. Martha's hands curled into fists. You made me feel like I was nothing. Like I would always be nothing. The square was silent now. But you were wrong. Her voice rang out, clear and strong. You needed me. You came to my home, desperate, because you knew I had skills you couldn't find anywhere else. Skills you dismissed, mocked. A few people nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. I don't need your approval, Martha said, tears streaming down her face. I never did. I just had to believe I was enough. Her voice broke. And I have always been enough. I just couldn't see it. For a moment, no one moved. Then someone started clapping. A woman near the front, tears on her cheeks. Then another person joined. Then another. Not everyone. But enough people clapped. Enough that it mattered. The same woman who'd been crying approached the stage. Mrs. Brennan, would you teach me to bake? I've tried for years and I can't get it right. Martha's throat tightened. I'd be honored. Another woman stepped forward, voice shaking. I'm sorry. For how we treated you. It was wrong. Martha nodded, unable to speak. Sam climbed the stage and took her hand. He looked out at the crowd with quiet authority. My wife has shown you who she is, he said. The only question is whether you're willing to see it. He turned to Martha. Ready to go home? She looked at him. This man who'd stood beside her when no one else would. Who'd seen her worth when she couldn't see it herself. Yes, she whispered. Home. They walked through the crowd hand in hand. Some people nodded respectfully. Some still whispered behind their hands. Martha didn't care anymore. As they rode out of town, something caught Martha's eye. A newly painted sign near the road leading to the ranch. Martha's bread, open daily. Her hand flew to her mouth. I had it made last week, Sam said. Figured you'd need it once word got out. Martha couldn't speak. The dream she'd carried since childhood. The bakery with big windows where people came because her bread was simply that good. It was real. Sam pulled the wagon to a stop. Turned to face her. You're not just enough, Martha, he said softly. You're everything. He kissed her then, gentle and sure, in the road leading home. And Martha kissed him back, tasting salt from her tears and the sweetness of finally believing she was worthy of love. Not because someone had chosen her, but because she had chosen herself. And in doing so, she'd found everything she'd ever wanted. A home. A purpose. A man who saw her. And a future that was entirely, beautifully hers.